Before you watch, choose your hat. You're about to watch a training, but what if the real training is happening in you? Are you watching as a scientist, searching for evidence, an investigator looking for clues, a psychologist studying the mind, a coach looking for a lesson, an actor studying the character, a detective asking what's hidden beneath the surface, a student ready to learn, or maybe a teacher without even realizing it? Because in this psychology game, the student eventually becomes a teacher. And here's where it's interesting. What if a single video can contain multiple codes? A clue hidden in the words, a clue hidden in the visuals, a clue hidden in the story, a clue hidden in what you notice, and perhaps the biggest clue of all, what you completely miss. The question isn't just, what am I watching? It's, why am I seeing this? What are you meant to notice? What are you meant to question? What is the universe reflecting back at you? And what might someone else see that you don't? So before you press play, choose your perspective. Then watch it again from another and another. Because maybe the matrix isn't just the world around you. Maybe it's the way you perceive the world around you. Pay close attention. There may be more than one story happening here, and the clue you need might be hidden in plain sight. So I was trying to do this on Facebook Live and connect it, but it wasn't working. So I'm going to do this here. There's a mix between having technical difficulties and some other things. So I'm going to run this workshop. And the first thing you would do, even yourself, if you were to do a workshop, is do it for yourself. You never know. And practice. So how to post. Okay, because we're going to need kind of instruction. So I want to clarify and go back in this process, which makes it unique and different. And we're going to be doing a lot of different things, but for the purposes of simplicity, when it comes to the assignments and the emotions and the healing. So when something screws up, keep going anyway. Mm-hmm. Oops, I'm just trying to see if this is working or not. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Then let me go. Oh, there you are. Now I can see you. I was like, okay, perfect. So what we'll do, I'm just gonna, this is good practice and then it records anyway. So this helps me on the technical side on what it is. And then you can ask me some questions if you want. If you I have a pen and a paper, that would be good. If you don't, that's not a problem either, because I can type out the questions afterwards in the group anyway, so you don't need it. But if you have it, it's bonus.
Yeah. What the heck? Oh my God. Video.
You don't have to have your video on if you don't want, but if you want it on, that's okay too. 'Cause- All right, ready?
Alrighty.
Okay. So, welcome to the game, because I know you see probably for a long time a lot of different posts and things that seem random, but nothing's actually random because it's tying things together to understand your own character and how it relates to you. And this would be for anyone. Really, if you were to think of your life as a game, so you've been playing a game and you've been playing without maybe knowing the rules, but think about it, the world around you. So we have the internet, social media, culture, family, relationships, success, beauty, fitness. All of these create a game board, and that game board you've been playing on. But the interesting part is you aren't just a player, you're a character. We want to have some fun with this because I don't like anything traditional. And people usually ADD out of traditional education. It's boring. I do anyway. So it's kind of brings back something that's a little bit more fun. And then we can think outside the box. So, some questions to reflect on when you think about it. Who created the character you're playing? So today, and what this isn't about finding the right answer. We're not trying to do that. It's about becoming curious about the questions you've never thought to ask.
Hmm.
That's all I want you to keep in the back of your mind. So, have you ever heard of the Matrix when people talk about that just in random? Okay.
Yes.
So a lot of people think the Matrix is just out there, or if some people can think it's in relation to them, that would be a different level, but it's understanding the connection of both. And what if the Matrix wasn't just around you? So we often think of ourselves or think of the Matrix as something outside of ourselves. The systems, the media, the internet, the algorithms, the expectations. And most people want to blame those things, right? Instead of understanding the connection. And that's the difference in character and how you play back. So what happens when when the outside world becomes inside your head? And you start to hear voices, right? The voices inside our head that tell us, I'm not good enough. I should be different. I need to lose weight. I'll be happy when.
I'm elegantly outrageous.
And I'm redefining strong and sexy.
So if you're in your 40s or your 50s or beyond,
are you ready to take on the challenge and do the same? That's just who I am, right? The inner dialogue. Where does that come from? And where did it originally come from? These are the things we need to be asking ourselves because our brain really is, millions of years old. And a lot of people don't seem to realize that. So, at what point does someone else's programming become your identity? And this is where the psychological game begins. This is where everything really I do is meant to trigger people, and that helps myself too because that's what I'm triggered by somebody else. Well, then that's education for me. So everybody flips between student and teacher. It's just when and how we're aware of that and why. The difference of traditional teachers or is, well, here, you've been given the role of a teacher and you're told you're a teacher, but you can't teach anyone anything. You can only make them think. It doesn't mean I have to respect somebody because they're in that position, but I will show respect because that's the right thing to do in a certain position. There's a little bit of a difference, right? That understanding is like, oh, how do you operate within the world and how do you treat other people? But it's like, wait a minute, how I don't want to be mistreated. Why am I taking this? If somebody disrespects you, and how do you deal with it? How do you cope? Well, that'll depend. What is it attached to? Why? And what our beliefs are. So there's so much more to it that people have to start to evaluate and think about. And you know what? When we're talking, so that psychological game, because when we internalize the rules of that game, we don't need somebody else to tell us how to play. We start really policing ourselves. And ironically, too, the people that only do that, they can be dangerous too without understanding the connection to the rest of the world. That's why it goes both ways. So you're going to meet your characters and the playfulness of this. How many versions of yourself do you have? Right? You have the successful one, you have the strong one, you have the confident one, you have the people-pleasing one, you have the perfectionist you. Then, you have the I've got it all together. But then everybody has the version of themselves nobody sees. But the difference, that version of ourselves that nobody sees, how often are you questioning it yourself and your own actions? How often are you investigating yourself and your own habits? Many people don't do that to understand how that relates to the programming that came from the outside world. And that's the difference. So, which one is the real you? Or are they all you? Most of us adapt. We become different versions of ourselves depending on the environment we're in, right? So you're not the same with your kids as you would be with your husband, as you would be at work, as you would be maybe with a stranger. Like when we're adapting and changing, that's changing our character. Okay, but what's our base? So they're all versions of us, but what's our base and the understanding of that? So the playfulness too that I try to, educate people on and around is almost like your character. Here, move. You're born, but now your human body over there, that's the robot. Your chip is your brain. Where did that programming come from? Ooh, well, maybe we have to recode and decode, but you'd have to understand that programming, which is the story you've been telling yourself your whole life about yourself. And that's where your beliefs come from, but it's the subconscious brain that needs to be understood because that's actually really what drives us that most people don't explore. And that's where, if you weren't looking for long-term weight loss or results, people get reset so much back because it's the subconscious brain that sets us back to the habits based on the beliefs. But not even only that, sometimes we can be eating the best, we can be exercising, but our body still holds weight or loses so much weight because that's how our body is processing energy, because humans are only energy. And that's almost relation, like weight is a symptom something is wrong because it holds energy. But the beliefs around that, ironically, can be more of a problem because there's people that are heavier weight and they have a different body type and they have better eating habits, they have more energy, they feel really good, better than me, like at times, right? That's where there's a lot of ignorance around that. So it's not just when we hear about our hormones and people talking about hormones, that's a factor and that's a real thing, just like inflammation, disease, pain, all of those are real things, but there are symptoms, something else is wrong, which links to the psychology because all disease is linked to the brain. And it's understanding that base and that relates to energy on how that affects our hormones. So many people have it backwards because it's like they're starting their teaching and their education from a place that hasn't got to the root of what's really going on in the psychology, which is the number one thing that needs to be addressed in relation to anything else. So we are different versions of ourselves depending on the environment we're in, as we just talked about, and that's not necessarily bad. It's human. It's what makes us. It's what happens when one of those characters though becomes more dominant. We forget that's the difference between the role we're playing and who we actually are, and that's the understanding of self and why we allow what we allow at different times. Right, when our self-worth is low, people pleasing. That's not doing ourselves a favor, learning, and I went through wanting to please everybody else, wanting to help everybody else, not wanting to make an enemy or not wanting to upset anyone, ironically, is not a way to be because there's a lot, like we have to take that stand for ourselves and understand it's like if you want to save a life, person suicidal even, first life they have to realize is worth saving is their own. And nobody else, it doesn't matter how many people around them can love them. If they don't feel right or good in their head, and understand they have to stand up for themselves and ask themselves, well, why am I putting up with all these things? Why am I tolerating it? But even on a more extreme side, like how can I get out of this? Because, and that's another thing, there's it's a little bit more heavy in that conversation, but mental health is such an important thing for me in the situations that I've been through too. And I know you can relate to that because you've been through real things, is that people could be suicidal for two different reasons. They're cowardly because of what they did and they don't want to face the consequences. And That's one thing. But somebody being pushed because of the abuse around them, never having the opportunity to understand that, not the proper help around them to educate them on themselves that they deserve better. Because you can't save the life by telling, and it doesn't matter what program if they don't want to, but it's that core self-worth of believing they deserve to. And that's exactly it, trying to please everybody else before like helping yourself. Because you would, as a mother too, like you'd be no good to anyone else if you're not okay. Can't, and it's that metaphor of, right, you can't pour from an empty cup. Just it doesn't work. So the character in the mirror, when you think about yourself and the metaphor of the mirror, it is not just the metaphor of the mirror of looking at yourself in a mirror, picking up a phone, because a lot of the training and coaching that I've done has to do with teaching somebody how to get comfortable on camera so they can start seeing different versions of themselves to understand their own character. And it's like calling themselves on their own BS. I had to go through that process too. And it's like, that's the different roles in the different play, but to understand where I'm full of it myself, when I'm calling myself out, but then how that relates to the rest of the world. And then how we interpret the rest of the world. You look at something on social media, many people want, like, all of these things are going to be in existence. So it's like violent video games are going to be in existence. The internet's going to be in existence. Social media is going to be, it's like people blame social media for so many things. Well, where's the responsibility of learning how it works in the world and understanding it so that it can be utilized properly and people take responsibility? In the modern world too, it's like dating. Well, oh, social media is the problem with dating. No, people that are irresponsible, who are cheaters, who are using it the wrong way, are the problem. It's not social media that's the problem. Social media can be beneficial. It can bring people together. It can help people educate. It can connect the world. Depends what side of it you're looking on. But it's the individual who's, and that's like the representation even of like the seven deadly sins. So the seven deadly sins are for somebody to self-analyze those things and master for themselves. Like I do everything in metaphors. So Mary Magdalene, and the metaphor of that is she had seven demons. Whatever somebody believes in history, or it doesn't matter. It's a metaphor, which represents the seven deadly sins, but every human has that. Every human faces that. So and that comes at us from the world. And what triggers us is a sign that we have an unhealed wound. Right? Because if I tell you you're wearing a red shirt right now, if I tell you you're wearing a purple shirt, you're not colorblind, you'd go, what? That doesn't make sense. Right? You go, okay. But if I were to say something that internally you have a belief about yourself with, and I say it, you're going to be offended or hurt. Well, that's a sign of an unhealed wound. But if I say something that's completely out of left field, you don't believe that, then you're just gonna well, this girl's crazy, right? That's how it works back and forth. So it's the understanding of self. It always comes back to that. So when that happens, what happens when you look at your body through what happens when you look at your body through the eyes of your character? Well, what character? Some days we look in the mirror, oh, I like what I look like, I feel good, and I'm confident. Other days we could be wearing the same even outfit, the same look, but we're seeing like our mood and something's different. Why? Because something else in the dialogue's off that affect our emotions. And it's understanding, well, whose voice is in my head right now that's judging that character? Who and where did it come from? So the perfectionist would see flaws, and the competitor would see a score. The person seeking approval would see judgment. The person who lived to survive sees danger. And then the person who believes they're never enough will never be enough. They'll never. So if we don't understand that as a base, that we're born and we're born worthy, that's our right. But we also have to live in the world. It's like we have to love ourselves for everything, but then also take responsibility for our own actions to better ourselves. It's the mix of both. The body isn't always the problem. Sometimes it's the lens we're looking through, as we just talked about. So whose eyes are even in your own head watching yourself? And when I watch a movie, even for example, I play all characters and all roles. My mind's very busy.
Yep.
I play with the game. all roles, every character, because every character has flaws. I go, can I flip with that person? Then I take the role of the director, the producer. Then I take the role of the promoter. I go everywhere with it. My head goes all over the place. But that's an example of how many eyes could you look through to see a scenario in a situation. Well, that's a metaphor of switching over and doing it to your own life. The different perspectives around and how much can you do within that and think differently outside the box. So if this is where identity and body image collide, and like this is because that's our identity, our body image, and our attachment to self-worth because of that. Well, that's the issue, and that's been my issue my whole life too. And that's about I'm not pretty enough, I'm not good enough. Well, that's a terrible way to measure things, right? And I've had an insecurity about it my whole life. No matter, like, you have times where you feel better, and the guilt though of wanting to feel better when you do. Okay, but what comes at, like, that's been my issue. I self-sabotage for different reasons because of the things and I don't, it's like, oh, I don't want to be used that way or just that. I want somebody to see my soul and my base. I value people's character, and that's most important to me. But when it comes to myself, I'm constantly, it's me. I'm the biggest mean girl to myself. I don't judge other people's appearance, but I'm constantly judging my own, and aging then catches up with us and this, that, and it's like, say if you're having a bad day, are you making everybody else's day bad? No, I wouldn't do, and you're like me too. We not going to affect it, but there's the people that take it out on others because and then there's those people that internalize it and self-abuse. And that's right. That's doesn't make sense because we're meant to, and every individual, ironically, if they were their best self, we would live in a world of harmony instead of doing that. But if we have both types of people projecting out and hurting others when they're hurt or hurting themselves, well, that's an imbalance in the whole world. It's not good. So two people can look at the exact same mirror and see completely two different realities. The mirror didn't change, the body didn't change, but the perception did, right? So that's the loop, right? Our body changes. Wow, we feel better. I'm confident. I feel worthy. Something happens in our life. The old story returns, and now we're back to the same loop. And that's, every human has PTSD. They do, because our brains are attached to something or what we have. But every human experiences different things at different times. That's triggering. Every human, the only thing we all share is suffering. When and where and why? Well, there's different degrees. Those that grew up on love and safety versus those who grew up on survival. Well, they're tapping into a different part of the brain, even in that PTSD. But at some point, that person that grew up on love and comfort, well, then something else will happen. You're going to lose a loved one. An accident can happen. You didn't get into the school you wanted, whatever. But their version of quote unquote playing victim is very different to a person's victim of somebody who went through extreme traumas, different abuse, whatever, and understanding that psychology, right? But people react different. Well, that would be based on spirit and soul on how that is. And then understanding the process of how we learn and, we do have to like make up a penance for it and learn the lesson. But at what point too, to not keep punishing ourselves, break free. So it's an interesting mix. So what if the cycle wasn't the body? What if it was the story attached to the body? This is why someone can lose weight, reach a goal, get compliments, and still not feel secure. The outside changed, but the internal program didn't necessarily change with it. So that's the psychology game. So here's your challenge. Okay. So I want you to think of one thing you repeatedly do when you don't want to feel something. This is hard but this is where people might be aware, like they don't want to feel hurt, pain, loss, heartbreak. I know for me, that's a big one. Letting people close to me after I feel my heart's been ripped out. That's my issue, getting close to people after it's the losing of trust. Especially in relationships, that's what it is. And then my self-sabotage would be, I went back to overeating and the cycle of that. But I also had to go through that process to understand how much I was attaching my value only to then outer things like my appearance and different stuff, which related for me to my traumas of abuse, right? So, of course, then in life, if I'm still there, I would only attract a partner of vanity if I don't heal, even though I know I'm not like that. No, but my subconscious clearly is, and that's why it's the responsibility of attracting that. But are you scrolling? Are you working harder? Are you shopping? Are you chasing another goal? Are you withdrawing? Are you seeking validation? And then for some people, it goes to further addictions. They go to gambling, they go a misunderstood sex addiction, alcohol, whatever it is. But that's at the root of it for every human's brain. It's what's the base of what they're fearing, and then the avoidance. And then those habits can be positive or negative. Even a person that does a positive habit in addiction, that's great. But if they lost the base and the ability, right? Like say they lost their health, they lost their money, they lost to do that healthy habit and the ability to have that routine, what addiction would replace it? And a lot of people don't know until they lose. So now ask yourself, what feeling am I trying not to feel? And if I couldn't use my usual distraction, what would I have to face? So this isn't about judging the behavior because that's a big deal too. And that was the hard because that's the cycle, right? So for myself, the food thing, and it's constantly judging. Oh my God, like I'm overeating. Oh, now I've gained weight. Now I'm not good enough. It's understanding it. Okay, understand at the root, I'm hurt right now. I feel betrayed. I gave everything and I was left for not I was just left. I blah blah blah. So I don't personally we don't spend too much time in victim mentality, no, but giving ourselves the grace with our own selves to be honest about the situation when we were a victim in a situation to go, wow, that's really sucks. Okay, I need to be more forgiving of myself. Yeah, I'm overeating right now. Yeah, I'm having this, but maybe that's the issue is feeling like now I've gained some weight. Now I'm not good enough because I believe that. And then yeah, it happened and somebody mistreated me because of it. But if I believe that about myself, this cycle won't stop. But it's also understanding that's what I needed in the moment. Okay. And also understand though now the consequence of what I did, I am going to have to face because there's always nobody gets out of the consequences of things. It just takes time before it catches up. Right now, oh, what's the consequence? My back hurts. I have inflammation. My stomach hurts. Oh, now I'm extra tired. Wow, I just made myself feel worse. But sometimes that's where we're more comfortable in pain. Most humans are more comfortable feeling like crap than they are feeling healthy because that's actually more of a norm. Like for when you're not used to being happy or feeling good, that's actually not the norm. So subconsciously, we self-sabotage. And that's when we have low self-worth. That's where the reprogramming has to come from. So it's about getting curious about it and the behavior. So that behavior may have served a purpose. The question is whether it still serves you today, or is it time to let it go? And that's what the mirror method is. The goal isn't to destroy the character, it's to understand the character. It's to question that programming, to recognize the patterns, to understand the voices, to separate who you are from what you've learned, and eventually to find your own inner coach. That's the biggest thing. That's why I say I hate the title of coach. I hate it. I'm like, technically, yeah, it's what I do, but I like to be a guide and that's somebody's mirror. Hey, I triggered you. I know. I meant to. So mean. Yeah, that's why in the other parts of the game is really getting people to understand, well, that's in relation to self, that's an unhealed wound, right? So where's your inner coach? And can you trust your inner coach? Where did that inner come from? Because a person who doesn't trust themselves will never trust anyone else, ever. And it's just like a person is overly trusting and naive. And I think we fell, and that's where our connection into that category and being hurt. Well, at one point has to learn too. This was the hardest lesson. It's no, not that's boundaries. No, people aren't allowed to just step on you and walk all over you. No, and guess what? They're not going to like you, and you got to be okay with it because to be liked by everybody is extremely dangerous because it's not possible and it's not honest, and it's not true to yourself, and then you're not being honest with yourself. That's very important. So it's what the mirror so that's what the mirror method is all about. So I'm not here to tell you who you are. It's not my job with ever. I'm here to hold up a mirror and help you become curious enough to discover it for yourself. So your first mirror challenge is what character are you playing right now? So these are the questions. Do you have your pen and your paper?
No.
I can send this to you afterwards so you don't, and then you can, and this is just your homework to reflect on. Okay.
Okay.
What character do you show the world? What does that character need people to believe about me? What happens when I can't maintain that character? And who am I when I don't have to perform? Everybody's a performer. When, where, and why. But that's why you said you needed a break, is because it's exhausting. Well, you've been performing for too long, you're burnt out, and that's affected your health mentally and physically. So
Yes.
that's the reflection. Did you discover something or did you discover a question?
You know what? Your message came at the perfect time because I don't know if you see any of my posts, but I had a dream one night and it was so fucking real. I looked up and somebody was on a big building. I don't know where it was, but they were going to jump. And I left everybody and I ran up those stairs so fast and I tried to say, hey, no. And I went to grab them to help them and they realized they didn't want to fall. So as I was pulling them up, I slipped and I fell. That's when I went to my doctors. I said, okay, I need the time off. I
Yep.
need the time off because I think my dream was telling me I need to stop saving everybody else and save myself. I know that
You're
sounds so weird,
no,
but
I believe in that 1,000,000%.
it just
You are
clicked.
no good to anyone else if you keep burning yourself out, and that's why you're not well right now. That's the reason.
Well,
And
it
you
took me a
deserve,
few weeks to tell my doctor I need the time off because then I was like worried, oh my gosh, my clients are all old. Who's going to help them? I can't do it.
you cannot say you're drowning. You're the one and you're trying to save everyone. It doesn't work. It's a metaphor of same thing, right? You're on a plane and you have to put your oxygen mask on first. And that was the lesson I had to face too, and saying no. Nope, I'm not. Nope. So there's one last thing. So if did this make any difference for yourself today? You feel it?
Yes.
Okay. So if you got some value from it, then then I have this if it was a group, but we're doing this. This is good because practice, and then next week I will probably because it's the way that this worked out. I'm not going to post it this week on it. We'll read might want to redo it, and you and I can chat about something else. But if there's somebody that comes to mind that this could help, then because I'm going to do a couple series of this, like a couple live and see how it goes. And then, but you and I could speak maybe even further if there's some connect, because I know how we used to work together. And then there might be some opportunities to do something and maybe because I know whatever the best is for you, that it could be, contributing a little bit. I know you like to help in a way or something else. But we can chat more about that. But if you felt that you did get something and from watching this and adding value, if you want to invite somebody or anyone that you think would get value, and well said, I'll do a couple series Tuesdays at noon, then invite them in or invite them into the group. Okay. Well, it was good talking to you, and I'm glad we touched base, and I will send you your questions.
Okay, thank you. It was good seeing you.
Nice seeing you.
Bye.
Bye.
Still here.
Me too. So you have the perfect product. You've been working on this. You know it's exceptional, but you just don't know where to start to get it going, to get it sold. Because what's happened, especially now in a pandemic, doing things the traditional way and trying to sell it into the stores and advertising in magazines and newspapers and billboards and kind of all over the place isn't the most effective way to get in front of your target market. But what is the internet? It's quite simple. But what are these secrets of the internet, and how are people becoming an overnight success so quickly, especially being so young? How are 20-year-olds, popping up overnight and making so much money? Well, they're doing things a different way. You have to be a little bit more open-minded to change, and in this world and the time we live in, they're obviously doing something you probably don't know. Do you want to know? We got the secrets. We'll let you know what those secrets are, the true secrets of the internet. Register today and we'll send you a free video on some of those ways and some of those secrets to get you started. Imagine in 30 days if you could really just learn what you needed to learn. We would just tell you, and you can just build your business online because you've already done the foundation. You have the base of the business. You just need to know what those secrets are. So let's get you started. Let's get going.